Okay, so tonight I'd like to speak about the artist Felice Casorati. So it's Felice, Felice, Casorati, Casaroti, 1883 to 1963. 1883 to 1963.
Wow.
Felice Casorati. Um, it's interesting that for a number of the artists that I have chosen, they go from the mid 1800s until early 1900s or mid 1900s. Um, I like that period a lot. Um, I like the sense of art changing and it being both traditional and modern. It's pushing in two ways. Um, so I saw an exhibit of Casorati in Milan about a year ago in 2025. And I think I've only seen in person maybe one or two paintings of his, but I was very struck by the art. And we were going to be in Italy. My wife is studying Italian, and her teacher actually lives in Milan, and her teacher and Renee speak through some kind of teaching system, um, Milan to Brooklyn. So we were going to be in Italy, not really in Milan, but then I saw that this exhibit was in Milan. We were going to be in Rome and in Florence. So we traveled from Florence to Milan to see this exhibit, and I thought it was terrific. Um, so I relate Casorate to new objectivity. Um, this is a period which is usually connected with German art from around 1920 to 1940. But I have a theory that new objectivity didn't only take place in Germany, but took place in other countries and in the United States. And in fact, in a class maybe a year ago, I put forth this theory, and I had different artists that represented new objectivity in England, France, um, different countries. Um, okay, so Casorati is also influenced by an early Renaissance artist named Piero della Francesca. Piero della Francesca. Piero della Francesca, Franesca. And to me, he's also influenced by the artist Hans Holbein. Holbein, Holbein. So the book that I bought of the exhibit turns out is in Italian. And my Italian is not very good. So I don't know a great deal about his life, um, but I know what I see in his art, which is very, very interesting. So I'm going to show you pictures of his and comment on them. So let me see if I can do that. Tell me again how I put this on full screen. I do, could someone tell me? Len, for instance, how do I put
Go
this?
to go at the very top. It
Yeah.
says home, insert, blah, blah, blah. Go to slideshow. Uh,
Okay. Okay. I
yep,
got
hit
it.
that and then start, play from start. Uh, if you click the first one, it might go to the big screen. Hit play from start, which is all the way on the left.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
there you
Great.
go.
Great. Thanks. Um, okay. Oh, so I'm going to advance this pretty quickly. Terrific photo. Okay. So this is Felice Casorati, and this is one of his most well-known paintings. And one part of New Objectivity um, it is basically a way of conveying figurative art in a more abstract way, or maybe what you would call a more modernist way, um, a more contemporary way, given early 1900s, let's say, or mid 1900s. And there's one strand of New Objectivity that uses this abstract way of providing information. And this strand is connected with, to me, is connected with Casorati. Okay, so this is a detail. Oh, and you can see the connection in this painting with Piero della Francesca, and in a curious way, also with Holbein. Um, this is a detail. So the forms in his work are very much simplified in a way that where they have been almost influenced by abstract art. This is a detail of another painting of his, and but you can see this sense of form um, is very, very simplified. Very blunt and abstracted form and very well composed. So I have some early work of his, and then through different periods of his life. Um, the early work is more naturalistic, like this painting, and I believe influenced by Klimt. Okay, so this is a long, narrow painting, and it connects with the world of Klimt and maybe Art Deco. Um, in the exhibit in Milan, um, there were a number of early paintings like this, which are more naturalistic than the ones you saw before, but very, very interesting. And very involved with humanity, with people, with the human condition, and group scenes. Does a number, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I'm sorry. He does a number of paintings where he has things on the floor which are kind of like a cross between throwaway things and symbolic forms. And each one of these forms is very specific, very caressed, very seen. They're not just there. They're not throwaways. They're they're there for a reason. Um, I think this painting is called The Old Ones, something like that. La Vecchia, something like that. And um, it's a very interesting painting, really, an interesting subject. And this painting made me think of another artist and another artist and another artist. So I I interdispersed the other artists with this painting. So we're doing a little tangent, but I think it makes sense. Um, and nice size painting. This is like maybe 60 or 65 inches high by say 40 inches wide, somewheres around there. So this painting, the Casorati painting, made me think of this one. Could anyone guess who's the artist?
It's
We studied this artist.
yeah.
We
Mhm.
studied this artist.
Well,
So
Paula
it-
Rita?
no, no, but that's close. Kathleen,
Um, I was just trying to think of it's not Auerbach.
that's close. Can I give you?
Lucian.
Can I
It's
get?
not Lucian.
That's close. That's very close. Hot, hot, very hot, very hot, very hot.
The
Okay,
English artist, who,
English artist, yes.
yeah.
Initials are Kathleen C.P.
Uh, I don't know.
I am so disappointed. I
I
am.
am too. I'm
No,
embarrassed.
honestly, I'm joking. So the artist is Celia Paul. Celia Paul,
Oh,
who was for many years Lucian Freud's girlfriend.
oh, yes.
And these, I think, are people in her family. I think they are all sisters. Um, so Celia Paul, who is a very good painter. Um, okay, so oh, and you should look her up. Um,
Yeah, I've never heard of her, so thank you for
I
bringing it up.
actually was going to say, Anne, you should look her up.
Yeah.
She's a very interesting painter. Oh, and also she writes very well. So I have a book that I read, which is a memoir. It's very well written. And then there's a second one, which I haven't read, but it, she writes very well.
Is her
And
last name Paul, like Paul?
Paul, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then uh, the next one is this one by someone you know or maybe don't know. But in any case, I took the liberty of putting this in. because the theme was uh, the ancient one, the Vecchia one, and so this is mine. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we're going to continue with Casorate. Oh, I should mention the size of this is like 40 by 50.
And what is the medium? Is it
The medium is Conti crayon.
Conte? Okay.
Hmm, beautiful.
So this is another painting by Casorate, and again another group scene. And I did this again. I interdispersed another artist with his work. So you'll see that either the next one or the one after. So this is Casorate, and so this artist. Oh, does anyone know who this is?
Hmm.
We already studied this artist.
Oh yeah.
Is it Lottie Lutterstein?
Yes, yes, that's right. Who said that?
Philippa.
Okay, okay. Uh, so I don't even think you weren't in this class then, but we did a whole study of her.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
Yeah. So her name is Lottie Lasserstein. Lottie, Lotte, Lasserstein, Lasserstein. Lottie Lasserstein. So Lottie Lasserstein's dates are 1898 to 1993. And Celia Poole, born in 1959. So this is coming up is a detail of this painting. This is quite a large painting. So this might be, I'm going to guess about 6 feet wide. She's a very good painter, and she'd be worth looking up. Yeah, definitely. Very moody, very evocative. And again, there's something about the forms that are somehow being influenced by modernist ideas. Like, for instance, in our head here, there's something a little bit connected with Casorate,
Mm.
but I can't say how. She's German, he's Italian. I don't think they even knew each other or knew of each other, but I could be mistaken. So, you know, um, okay. So again, Casorate, and here you could see
Plimpton.
a lot of Klimt going on in this world. I think the only painting I've seen of his was in a museum in Rome. I don't think I've ever seen a painting of his in the United States. And I think it was only one painting, and I was very struck by it. So I'm sorry this is slightly out of focus, but you see that if you could find this when you look him up on the internet, you'll see that all of these objects have a kind of extra special meaning. I don't have the skill set to make this smaller. Okay. Sometimes um, photographs, when if the file for the photograph is small and this is being expanded, they lose their focus. So if if that happens and you made it smaller, it would go back into focus. But I just don't know how to do that. So I'm not going to even try because I'm afraid this whole thing will disappear.
Just out of curiosity, so that we can look them up. Do you happen to know the name of that painting? It's
I don't know. I don't know the name of the
okay,
painting. Yeah,
but I can look up. Yeah.
yeah. Just look up Casorati.
Okay.
Uh, okay. So, so from here on in, it's all of the different worlds of Felice Casorati. Um, so a few still lifes where you see the same kind of character that's in the figurative work. I see the date here is 1920. So the artist is very shape driven and uh, really involved in abstract forms, um, abstract shapes. Now, this is the beginning of a grouping of nudes, and I think they're exceptional. I really, I'm really struck by these, and they do remind me of Piero della Francesca, but Piero through some kind of modernist lens.
I like the composition a lot.
Yeah, and you see the hat and the shoes are kind of almost like they belong in the previous painting, but the hat and the shoes are cousins of the way the forms are presented of the women. They're so similar. And that bowl. So this is not a huge painting, but it's not small. I'm going to guess something like 40 inches, maybe square. It, there's a kind of mystery and mood in his work so that it's not entirely coldly abstract. There's something else going on, some enigmatic quality. I was only able to read a little bit about him, but one thing that struck me as very interesting was that he early on had wanted to be a musician and a pianist, actually. And he then became very interested in art and painting and abandoned the study of the piano for painting. Oh, also that reminds me, I hope that some of you can come on the 30th of March to the event with my daughter. I tried to send you an invitation. I hope you got them. These reproduce very well. I've seen these at this exhibit, and he also has odd uh, still lifes or forms within this world. 。
Simon, it's Len. Question. Do you happen to know whether whether this person we're looking at was like a model he came to time and time again, or is it more like a George Tucker who didn't necessarily have a model but used the same face over and over and over?
I don't know the answer to that, but I would say my hunch, and I would say with a question mark as about certitude, is that these are different models. And
Hmm.
these are actual models. Okay. That would be my hunch. Whereas the thing with Tucker is that they're made up.
Yeah.
They're made up entirely. Although a few of them look like his sister,
Hmm.
and a few of them look like him.
Yes.
But there is a connection, actually, if that's what you mean. There is a connection between his work and Tucker.
I I I had a feeling there might be. I
I,
wondered.
I think there is, and I actually think there's also a connection between him and Helene Schiffbeck in a curious way.
Hmm.
It's almost like he's bringing along the figurative tradition, and he's also bringing along a certain uh, trajectory of abstraction. Those two trains, which don't seem to go together, are brought together in the ride that he's taking you on.
Hmm.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot, personally.
Hmm.
Um, this painting makes me think of a German artist. Um, his name drops out of right straight out of my head, but he's an artist that is in new objectivity, and he did a self-portrait where he has a greenish see-through garment on.
I think it's Christian Shad.
That's right. That's right. Who said that?
I did, and
Yay, yay.
yeah. No, I love his painting, and this does remind me of that quite a bit. But
Great.
um,
10 points
yeah.
for you. 10 points for you. Okay. Okay. Uh, very mysterious and yet lives in the abstract universe that he is signing on to and shows his allegiance to.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think his work is fascinating, very interesting, and uh, very singular in terms of form.
This is very different than the last one.
This one?
Yeah. This
Yes,
is,
yes, it is. It's a little more stylized.
yeah.
Yeah. This one I came upon when I was looking for the images, and I really was fascinated by it. It's a kind of wacky classroom, and the book with the uh, images on it, the symbols, and the projections um, on the wall. Um, I don't know what they would be, like a circle projected onto a piece of paper. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, let me go back. Um,
Looks like geometry.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
geometry. Like on the blackboard, it's like the inscribed circle of a triangle.
Who said that?
Charles, who's a mathematician.
Charles. Okay. Is that what you think it is?
Yeah, well, the circle, I'm sorry, circumscribed. It goes through the three
Yeah.
vertices of a triangle. So the various theorems about circles that are
Oh,
inscribed in triangles, circumscribed in triangles,
great, great,
points.
great. So you're not sounding like a mathematician. You are. You are.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's good. Um, it's a very interesting painting. Um, Sort of strange, but very interesting. Oh, here's another thought about this is that the modernist direction that he is choosing is warm, um, sensual, as opposed to cool and cutting edge. Okay, so you have different directions in the modernist world, and this is the Italian part of it. So there's a Mexican part, and there's a German part, and so forth, and that's very interesting. But if you look at their heads are the prototype of this direction. This I realized was light. This uh, this painting is deeper and richer, and yet strange, like the way the head repeats as the sculpture, or the sculpture repeats as the woman's head. I'm going to assume that this is the artist. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I would assume.
Beautiful.
Very spatial idea of art. So the space is a character in
Mhm.
in the art. The space is a force.
I love the combination of space and then the flatness of the outlines and the some of the forms.
Mhm.
This is Casorati. I believe it seems like a military thing, but this is the way he looks. And this is him older. Um, I found it interesting. I think that's the last one. Let me go back to stop here. Okay. So I found an interesting statement about him, and I'd like to read it to you. In 1925, Raphael Gioli summarized the disconcerting aspects of Casorati's art. The volumes have no weight in them, and the colors no body. Everything is fictitious, even the living lack of all nervous vitality. The sun seems to be the moon. Nothing is fixed or definite, and argued that these very qualities give his work its originality and connect him to metaphysical painters. I like that last part, and argued that these very qualities give his work its originality. So I'm curious, any comments or responses to um, Mr. Casorati or anything else that I've said before or tried to imply or uh, investigate.
Hmm.
Um, can I call on someone? Um, I wonder, Carla, what you think.
Oh, I was pretty taken back by how the some of the backgrounds were so modern, and just like a design
Yes,
versus something specific, and that modernist tendency. And I like how that contrasted with a pretty realistic figure. I mean, a more realistic figure. Um, and I liked these paintings a lot. I thought they were
Too.
stunning.
you wrote to me today about Schriftbeck. Do you
Yeah.
think that there's some connection?
Um, I might have to think about that for a while and compare them. Um, Not off the top of my head, you
Okay,
know.
okay.
Yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
you should say
Okay.
what
Yeah.
you should
But
say.
maybe it's there. Maybe it's there in the totality.
Yeah, no, you should say what you feel.
Yeah.
Uh, Kathy, what do you think?
Yeah, I overall loved his work. There were some pieces that I went, oh wow, and I might choose them to write about.
Yeah.
I felt also that it wasn't totally uniform in style. There were some that I thought almost belonged to another artist,
Yes.
so varied. Um, and then there was at least one or two that reminded me of Hopper with a solitary figure in a kind of stark room.
Mhm.
So I felt, especially the two women, I think there was a flowing fabric. They were sitting, one was sitting on the floor, one was behind like I think a chair or
Yeah, terrific,
yeah,
terrific one.
that was
Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful.
early on, that one. Yeah,
That one definitely, I said, oh, that looks like Hopper to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Um, Alan, what do you think?
Gotta hit your volume.
Okay, there we are. Yeah, I actually like this artist as well. I love the simplicity of the forms. I thought the forms were beautiful, particularly of the nudes. And um, and the funny thing is, I also saw Hopper in some of those paintings.
Uh,
So
uh,
I
well,
actually wrote it down here.
interesting.
Uh, yeah, particularly there was one where I think there was a person in a room and the lighting, and very simply put, there's a window and a person sitting there, a woman, I think, sitting there. Anyway, it did remind me of him.
Alan,
Um,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no,
Uh,
no, the other thing I just wanted to say, and with a lot of these paintings, um, to me, there's a simplicity in them. It's a simplicity, I guess, based on um, the abstractness of them. But to me, sometimes they're actually much more complex than like the figurative ones. That there's more that I don't know, something about being able to kind of easily understand what the figures are doing in the I guess the more abstract ones.
yeah. But Alan, what did you think of the painting with the children and the projection?
Mhm.
Um,
I mean, what I especially the projection. What did you think that meant?
it's really interesting painting. I mean, it's something I think you'd want to look at a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, and then there were these things on the wall that were,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, sort of odd. I didn't know what to make of those either.
Um. Uh. Anna.
Well, I was struck by the influence of Piero della Francesca because I still remember when I first saw those paintings, and I think it was Assisi, and just being floored by them. And there's that beauty. There's something in the beauty that is similar. But at the same time, I also what I would the artist had made me think of more contemporary or not contemporary, but Giorgio Morandi's still lifes.
Yes.
That simplicity of form again, I really was struck.
Excellent. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. I didn't say that, but you're ahead of me. Excellent.
Yeah,
Really. Really.
beautiful work. Beautiful.
Yeah. 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 Mary, any thoughts? You have to.
Yeah, right, I got it. Um, yeah, I feel like the tension between coming out of this naturalistic thing and moving into the modern is like present in all the work. And I like the way you can see the shifting going on. And it's almost like it's picking up on like a zeitgeist that's happening around the world and
Yeah.
continues. Like even Gregory Gillespie's work at the end, one of the pictures you showed reminded me of that. And
Yeah.
so it feels very beautiful and combining and moving into a different era.
Mhm.
So you reminded me of something that maybe I should say again, which is usually the trajectory of a single artist's work who is figurative goes from more naturalistic to more abstract. I'm not sure why, but that's the generality. There probably are exceptions, but it goes from a myopic vision of reality to something that's more distilled. And in the case of Casorati, that that journey is there, but he's also helping it along by his allegiance to abstraction. So it could be connected with the way our eyes see, or a certain earnestness that you have as a young artist, if you're figurative, wanting to get everything in and then letting go a bit. It's an interesting thing. I've observed it many times. Um, and in artists like, say, Titian, who lived a long time, like to 95, you see his early work, very naturalistic, and then very, very broad, abstract ideas. Um, Wendy.
this is all very new to me. And I was
Don't.
an English teacher, and I'm very used to literary illusions, and this whole idea of paintings talking to each other and artists talking to each other seems connected to me to illusions, and I'm very interested in that. And I also just recently started painting, and so the idea that
Uh,
I might be earnest now, and I'm just thinking of all these things that I'm taking it very personally. Um, but I'm just really struck by the paintings. I don't have as many connections to other paintings, but they all um I don't know, I have a very visceral reaction to them. I keep wondering if there's going to be one you show us that I'm just like, but it hasn't happened yet. So
Wendy, I wanted to butt in and say, don't make up things, just say what you feel. You just say what you feel. You reminded me of something. Um, what area of English do you teach?
I'm not teaching anymore, but I taught my favorite thing to teach was Shakespeare.
Uh,
The older things, you know,
to
the
what
classic
what grades?
high school.
High school.
Yeah.
So I may have mentioned this before. Um, uh, I had a long-term correspondence with a very, very interesting man whose name is Guy Davenport. And he he was an essayist, uh, and a writer and an artist. And um, he wrote a very interesting book called The Geography of the Imagination.
Mhm.
Very smart guy. So um, when I wrote to him, I had to do sit-ups and push-ups and run around the block a few times, and then I would write. Okay. So he had a theory. This is a very interesting theory. He had a theory that writers write for themselves and for someone else, another writer. It's a very interesting idea that, in other words, there's another writer out there, mostly not alive, some alive, but mostly not alive. And there, the contemporary writer is thinking of that writer and is communicating with that writer or communing with that writer when they write.
Mhm.
And he's written on this idea. And I think it's a very interesting take. And I think he's correct because I could see that doing paintings and drawings.
Mhm.
I think of other people and I think, gee, I wonder what they would make of this. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, okay. So more on that another time, but I want to continue with this. Rita.
Well, you mentioned the last critic you spoke of, whose name I didn't get. You mentioned that he said the works lack vitality, but he wasn't using that as a pejorative phrase. Am I correct? And
Well, to a certain degree he was, but he was saying that all the things that don't make sense make it good art.
well, I was thinking that it's a little misleading to say lack of vitality. I think the emotions are very cool and they're very inward. It's not necessarily this in your face kind of emotion that appears on the canvas.
Mhm.
You
I, 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 I totally agree. I totally agree. But I think,
but it's there.
yeah, but I think what he was speaking to was he was pushing an irony.
Mhm.
And the irony is, gee, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. But what a terrific artist this is.
Mhm.
I thought that that's what he was trying to say.
Mhm. Mhm.
He was pushing it a bit, but I like that idea that life is not logical, and art certainly isn't either.
Mhm.
I don't know. That's my thought. Um, but anyway, unless you want to say more, I want to go on.
Go on.
Okay. Uh, Len.
Yeah, a couple thoughts. First, you led off by saying you felt he was singular, and I'll agree, and I'll frame that in a certain way though. Sometimes when you present an artist and we see a number of the artist's works, I'll find myself thinking, oh, that's like, reminds me of Degas, or that reminds me of Renoir, or that reminds me of right? And with Casorati, there was a little bit of evocativeness, but not really a lot. For me, his voice was very authentic and singular in and of himself and who he was and his personality. Um, Second point is I found his work very thoughtful and purposeful. And what I mean by that is nothing really haphazard. I don't think. It felt like there was a lot of thought that went into each piece in terms of the composition, in terms of how realistic versus softer or more abstract it was, about the nature of how the paint was applied, certainly some of the treatment of the human body and flesh tones I found extraordinary. And most of all, the purposefulness for me came through in the expressions of the figures. These were not like figures like drifting off into space, thinking about nothing. If you look at each one, for me, there seems to be a like a position in where they're coming from in relation to the other characters. They're observant or they're amused,
Yeah.
or this or that, but there's an activity. And
Yeah.
just dovetailing on Rita's comment, for me, that's vitality.
Yes. Yes. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, John?
I um I wanted to loop back around to your question earlier when you asked the group here, is there any comparison between Helene Scherfbeck and Casoroti? And my first reaction was, that's a crazy question because they're so different. But I bore down on that a little bit more, and I think the comparison would be is that in Scherfbeck and also in Casorati, there's no, in my humble opinion here, no specific action, no specific emotion that's being portrayed.
Hmm.
They're not in movement so much as sort of frozen in time.
Hmm.
Uh, I felt like they were almost photographs of a sculpture, not just the figure, but also the room.
Hmm.
That was my read on things, and I think that's contributes to you can't the mystery. You can't there's no explanation of what's going on. I really like the artist. I should have begun that way, and I thank you for introducing me to him. The other thing I would say that I like, that I think makes him very unique, is the way he's not pretending it's something he found. It's something he created, the roomscape. There's there's papers on the floor, and these figures are standing on top of these papers, and the papers are a color and form like foil to
Hmm.
set the figures off.
Hmm.
And he's not hiding that. He's acting like a stage designer and putting props in the room to create this invented space. And he's not hiding any of his tricks. And yet it doesn't ruin it for me. It makes it more mysterious, or it sort of furthers this notion that he's created an architecture or a mathematics, forms and shapes and angles to play off one another. And welcome to my world. I'm not holding anything back.
Part of the reason for my question is that when I was planning out the classes, I was thinking about who goes with who. And it felt to me, without kind of realizing it, it felt to me Casorati and Scherfbeck should go near each other. I I could say more about it, but I felt like they were connected in some way. But I couldn't figure out why. But I could suggest something after a little bit later. But let's go on to Kathleen.
Well, I was struck by, well, the composition for one thing, and being a painter myself, I noticed the technical stuff, sort of the superficial stuff. And I was most interested, aside from composition, in his color palette. You were saying that they were warm. Some of them were, but the first ones were cool. They were all neutral except for maybe the figure. But the grays seem cold, but then the figure would be warm, which is kind of jarring and you wouldn't expect. Maybe he was trying to draw attention to the figure, the life. But even though a lot of the colors are cooler grays, there's always some warm thing. Like there was just this orange rug in the middle of all this gray. Anyway, that's what I observed.
You should think of woman cool as the glass of water. So is the glass of water warm or is the glass of water cool? And it depends on where you were before. Okay. You know, the experiment is you have a glass of water, put it on a table, and someone has their hands in ice, and they put their hand in the water. It feels warm. Okay. Then you have the second person come along, and they have their hands wrapped up in hot towels. They put their hand in the water, it feels cold. Okay. So woman cool is very relative. And compared to, say, the modernism of the Bauhaus or other, pardon the word, colder modernist directions, to me, this seems warm. Okay. So it's very difficult to pin it down. It's a relative word.
I just haven't seen that sort of contrast before. It seems like most artists make all their colors harmonize, but there seemed to be this thing going on between the cool, for me.
I think the lights jump a lot in his paintings. The light jumps. Philippa. Oh, I'm not pronouncing your name right. Philippa.
Yes, thank you, Philippa. That's right.
Okay.
I like his work very much. And actually, I had shared one of his earlier paintings, the one with the little girl on the rug and all the objects in the foreground. But I share things sometimes without actually having any knowledge about the artist. So I didn't know who it was. And I was really surprised by the change in style. I thought of George Tooker. There's kind of um, like you said, the subject is outside the frame. There's kind of an emotional disconnect from the environment that the figures are in. I think. I think he paints them just beautifully. I also saw the similarities in his still lifes with Mondani's work. But one of my favorites was the middle-aged couple, the man and woman. I thought those figures were painted so beautifully,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
such a beautiful composition. And I have always loved the work of Piero della Francesca. And so I really would like to dig a little deeper into this artist because there's so much more to him than I realized initially.
Yeah, well said, well said. Um, so let me see, Charles.
So several thoughts come to my mind. Well, one, the comparison with Helene, whose last name I don't think I can pronounce well, so I won't try. The Finnish artist. I feel like there's a real strong contrast in that her feelings are coming out really strongly in her paintings. She's expressing how she's feeling, especially in the self-portraits, but in the other paintings as well. And I hadn't heard the term new objectivity before, and I don't know what it means, but a way I can see objectivity in these paintings is the emotions of the characters often come through. I'm thinking especially of that dinner scene, and you can see this woman looking askance at probably her husband, and this older woman kind of looking bemused, and you get the feel for what's going on in the scene, but I feel like the artist is distancing himself, and he's not putting his own feelings into it. He wants you to feel what's going on in the picture and not what he's feeling about it. So I felt that was a contrast with. I wish I could pronounce the name.
You should look up new objectivity. It's a very interesting period of time and point of view, and I think what it also is connected with is uh, an emphasis on looking as opposed to uh, an idealism about art. Looking hard at something, producing facts and information, and that's what we have, as opposed to gods and isms and um, philosophies. And so there's a certain strand that goes through new objectivity, which is really about seeing form, but not seeing it like this is good, this is not good, this is this is um, we're going to be saved. We're not going to be saved. Um, it's more just looking at form, but it is an interesting period of art. Um, Barbara, could you add something to this?
Well, actually, what I was going to say, Charles and I spent too much time together because it was pretty much what Charles just said. that I really felt like Helene's work was more introspective and reflected her feelings, and the Casorati, I really felt like the pictures were composed and that he was sort of in control of what was happening. But I thought his work was really beautiful and liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's as with everything, it's a shame that you can't see it in person. It really all art looks different in person, and
Yeah.
it's really the touch of it, the insistence of it, the uh, how it is directed to you. It just feels different. But it's these reproductions are pretty good. that I've used, except maybe for one or two. Um, and
So yeah, I'm feeling like I'm gonna probably repeat some things that people have said. And I appreciate everything. Like Kathy and Anna mentioned Hopper and other artists that were similar. And I think what I was doing is throughout the beginning or towards the middle even was I was seeing like, does this look like somebody? Does this look like somebody? Does this? And so I was like a little bit of Sargent, a little bit of, I mean, the girl on the carpet with the stuff on in front of her was kind of Sargent-like, and a little bit of Manet, and a little bit of Christian Schad, and Klimt, of course, was one of the inspirations, and then Hopper was mentioned, and there were just so many. But then I thought, well, it's not really they're not like them at all. I mean, they're just sort of maybe like hints of, we're trying to pigeonhole things, and I felt myself doing that. But what I like is that they were also the things I was trying to um, categorize them into the artists and the movements and the thinking were. It was all so much and it was so different that I think is what makes him singular, because it's not all of a piece, exactly. And I certainly had favorites, and I think I agree with Len as well that like there was nothing haphazard about this. It was very thoughtful and purposeful, and the compositions were absolutely determined to be what they were. But then there was a little bit of, you know, influence from various people and movements and artists, and I just thought, well, that's a wonderful way to be. You have your own sort of solid idea, a purposeful idea, and then your influences show a little bit more or a little bit less, and it becomes you.
it just occurred to me a weird, maybe non sequitur, is that his work also made me think of George de la Tour.
Mhm.
I agree. And yep, and
Very,
Morandi, depending on what it is, Delatour with the simplified shapes
yeah,
and
yeah,
the high contrast.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to add? Yeah, yeah, John.
I wrote down even others, um, believe it or not, Grant Wood,
Mm,
the couple,
Mm-hmm.
Eric Fischel, for the mystery.
mm,
Ooh.
Two, three people standing around a swimming pool, but what the hell is going on?
mm.
You don't know. Picabia, and I got a Balthus vibe
Yeah,
from many of them.
yeah, I agree.
But
I agree.
coming back to what Anne said, and I think it relates to what Lynn said also, I found him very, very unique. I was reading something once about I can't remember the critic, but he said, uh, great artists take in all this fuel, inspiration from various sources, and they're like a jet engine that burns so clean that what comes out, you don't see any of the fuel that they took in. That's all burned off, and you're left with something very unique. And I agree with Lynn. He is a unique entity. If you look hard enough, you'll see, maybe influences that he had never seen, but he's taking little bits and pieces, but burning it so clean he becomes unique.
Yeah. Um, if you haven't seen that exhibit of Helene Schurfbeck, I thought it was an amazing show, and I want to remind you to see it. And I'm really tempted to see it a second time. I thought it was really that good. Um, uh, so does anyone else want to say anything more? I think.
I just had a comment about the film, since George Delatorre was mentioned, and we had talked about how beautiful some of the cinematography was, or all of it in the film. I saw a scene today that reminded me very much of a George Delatorre painting. I can't even quite tell you she was kind of a profile, kind of the back, and maybe there was a candle. And I so clearly saw his work in
You
that.
mean in the film Helene? Helene, the film
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So try to watch that film for next time, and I'm going to try to speak about the Frick collection, and then I thought I would take out 5 or 6 of the paintings that I respond to and talk about it free form about those. And then you could respond to that. And also, I'd like to hear what you have to say about the film. It might help to write down like a short paragraph about it if you feel it, or just wing it. The film is extraordinary, I think, and whoever put that film together knew a great deal about her life. This is not an accident. That whoever did that film, whoever wrote the film and directed it, I'm not sure if it's the same person, but I believe that they knew a great deal about Helene Scherfbeck. And um, so I'll see you next week. Okay?
Simon, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Tuned in a minute late and I lost this whole conversation. You were speaking about an exhibit and I think a review of that exhibit before you spoke about Eugene Atget.
Yeah, so the review of the Eugene Atget exhibit was written by a writer named Hinton Alls.
Okay, but was there something before that? Another?
Yes, and yes, and there was a that was in the New Yorker, and
Yes.
in the New Yorker today, I read a review of the exhibit on Egon Schiele by what seems to be the new writer on art, whose name is Zachary Fine. And what I was trying to say was that in both of these reviews, the writer not only presented their personal point of view or personal connection, but they spoke um, with great accuracy of what they were looking at. That that it indicated to me, whether they use this term or not, what I would call slow looking. That they really had eyeballed this, and the adjectives they used to describe what they were looking at were just what I saw, what I would look for, even if I didn't see. So it's a nice combination, and it's both of them were really well done essays, and not art talk, real communication, not BS, not highfalutin words that 7 people understand.
Right.
This is really a live communication,
Right.
which is what I encourage.
Inspiration for
yeah,
our essays.
Yeah. So, any other questions? So, I've enjoyed this a lot, and if I survive another week, I will see you next week. No, I will see you next week. Okay, so onwards and upwards, and
Onwards and upwards.
Onwards and
Thank you. Great comments, everybody.
Yes,
Great
thank you so
comments.
much.
Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you.
Really,
I love
really,
this.
really
Thank you for
striking. Really
Thank you,
striking.
Simon.
Okay.
broadening our horizons.
Yeah, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice seeing you, Rita.
Same here, Simon.
And Philippa. Philippa. I'll see you soon, Rita.
Okay.
Okay.
See you too.
Yeah. I think she froze.
Oh,
no, now she's missing.
wow. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry. But have a wonderful week.
Yeah, you too. You too. Send my best regards.
Will do. Same
Okay.
here.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.